We're in the series, Be Freer One Step at a Time. And today's step is stabilising. And it's the 7th step in a 10-step explanation of how change brings itself to fullness in our lives. And a change coming to fullness means that we are much freer than we have been. And so we're taking time to pause and listen and accept. And when we look back, we will be able to notice that healing and growth have happened. After being in a new do pattern for a time, things change. We'll be talking about those today. And one of the first things is where our attention goes. First of all, we knew that something was coming to birth. And then we experienced and named other giftings. And we see that in this slide. A growth and a change of background. Maybe that indicates a different level of attention within us. And stabilising is when certain changes in choice, experience and promise happen. And so I'm revising what we've talked about at stage 1 and stage 2, which we're at now. First of all, we made a decision, and we had to struggle and make conscious decisions to do the new pattern. And at the time we were talking about that in detail, we found that there was a pullback energy from the old pattern, which was quite strong. We also named that there was doubt and uncertainty and a certain not knowing and pining which was happening. And also that we were totally in the unknown. That little glowing circle in the middle is a representative of us in the middle of unknowing, surrounded by unknowing about where this new pattern was going to take us. And on the last column, we wouldn't have moved if there hadn't been something which was inviting us to something better than where we were. None of us move unless there's something like that. And we found in the past that neural pathways form like a track within our energy systems. Then, as we moved on in repeating this do pattern, we noticed that there were other giftings besides what we first of all thought hazily might happen. And in the middle columns, there we see that some light about what the benefits are there, even though we can't name them yet. And in the girl, we can see that she's still not sure, but there's less struggle than there was before. And down below, that little glowing cycle is that we're outside. The unknowing is kind of set in the background, and we can see some of the benefits and experience them and know them. There's still unknowing at the top that has to be revealed. And on the third column, we can see that the promise has become clearer to us. We know that it's more worthwhile to go ahead. And down below that, the neural pathways have formed a track, so it's much easier to do this pattern. Not nearly as much struggle as when we first began. And so, our inner attention and feeling, either consciously or unconsciously, moves to nurturing. And nurturing is a really different interior reality than struggling. And so, this is an image which shows this. So there's metaphorically much more clarity about the giftings and benefits. And that means that your inner attention will subtly change from struggling to nurturing. Let's pause for a little while with this image. You can see the involvement of your emotional and intelligence with this growth now, whereas before, on our images, it was held outside you. At the beginning, you could see some growth. That was the middle stage that we talked about. And now you can sense what I'm calling flowering. And you can see the flowers. The plant has been coming up. We've used plants as our metaphor all the way, and now there's flowering. And today we'll be naming what some of these flowerings are, metaphorically. So, what is it that is flowering? First of all, let us consider the environment of this flowering plant. It's now able to survive in the midst of all of the other cracks and problems and what we have to deal in our life. It's a part of our ongoing journey. It doesn't depend on our ongoing journey. It's not likely to be swallowed up like the other two earlier images of the beginning plant and then the gifting coming up. It has a stability about it. So the environment, first of all, is that it's integrated into our lives in a much more secure way. And so that's really an important thing to repeat. As we repeat a pattern, it gets integrated into our life and living in a much more secure way than when we began the pattern. And now, in this more spacious inner place, you can name healing and growth in several ways. And the first way is by comparing how you are now with how you began this new pattern. How you were before, stop and name it, and how you are now. And you'll find there's a difference. And here are the three to have a look at. There was a sense of struggle, and that's indicated metaphorically by the background for the first image. The middle image has a background of green, so as you got more comfortable and new giftings revealed themselves, there was more hope for you and less struggle. And finally, at this stage, it's integrated into your life in a way in which you don't have to work so much hard there, and it's a part of your life. So there isn't so much energy going to that. And now, let's look at the energies underpinning the do. The first one, a lot of struggle. Second one, less struggle. Third one, surviving in spite of the other troubles in your life. And another area that could be named and is well worthwhile naming is the ease of doing this new pattern. First of all, you had to really make a conscious effort, and you forgot most of the time. It would have been easy to move into never doing it. And now it's pretty much a part of your general daily or weekly activities. It's also important to really be in touch with your emotional reality at this point of this many repetitions. And you'll find there's a comfort in doing it, and a comfort about how you experience it in your life. And if you like, to compare it from when you began to where you are now in accomplishing that unseen but coming clearer end, you'll be able to name the progress that you've made. At yet another level, there is an emotional reality in understanding how your life is better now and more worthwhile. And as we look at this picture, we can see that the unknowing is in the background, and the colours and the comfort of life is right there, and the feeling good is a bit like that little drop of dew on the tip of the lily leaf. And it's now time to put this all together and to name the fruits. A couple of these are still in the dark, and they are when the old pattern turns up now and again. However, when it does turn up, it mostly won't have anything like the old pullback energy, because now the fruits and the comfort of knowing those fruits outweighs the initial struggle. And another way is that the initial struggle has now developed into a well-known rhythm which will carry itself forward, just as this runner's energy is carrying her forward. And a benefit of that carrying forward with its own momentum is that the promise is clearer and more in sight. You don't know the detail of it yet, but the promise is more in sight. And emotionally, that really is very comforting to know that you're there, getting there, not too far away. And it kind of isn't a problem that you don't know the detail yet. There's enough detail that's happened that you can name, if you follow this process, that lets you be at rest with the rest of the detail that has to be revealed. And it's timely to make this note. There will be many more repetitions before this new do pattern reaches the autopilot level of the old pattern. And there's this thing about cycles of change. Eventually, this change, which is now in process, will come to that automatic pilot level of interaction. So, in brief, when you began, there was a faint hope that this promise would happen. And there was a sense of struggle causing that, because you had to make a conscious decision to move into this pattern when the old pattern had strong pullback energy. So, to summarise this, you now have, at stage 7, stabilising, stronger hope and clearer promise. So we've paused and we've listened and we've accepted. And now when you look back, you can name some of the healing and growth. And I'm putting that in a summary form for you. As the fruits of the initial promise are evolving in the form of more ease of doing, more comfort, more integration into life and living, your promise becomes clearer. And metaphorically speaking, you can now go forward with a lightness in your perception and a gleam in your eye. That is, there is stronger hope for you as you continue on your journey.